Where in the Herd is Tiffany, where we talk about travel, lifestyle, and mental health. Follow us on Instagram at Sweet Tiffies, Twitter at Sweet Tiffies, Facebook Sweet Tiffies Inspirations, Tiffany-Travels.com. Do not forget to hit the subscribe button. Hello, welcome back to Where in the Herd is Tiffany. I am excited about today's guest. I have a good friend on here named Shanay. And we are going to be talking about Peace Corps. So if you don't know what Peace Corps is, we'll tell you all about it, and let's get straight into it. All right, Shanay, before we get started, go ahead and introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about who you are.
Perfect. What I'm going to do, I'm going to introduce myself in English, and I'm also going to introduce myself in Moroccan Arabic, because today we're talking all about Peace Corps, and you'll know why once we talk about it, why I introduce myself in Arabic. So hi, my name is Shanay. I'm a travel and lifestyle content creator. I'm from the States, and I lived in Morocco from 2016 to 2020. And I spent 2 years of my time living in Morocco serving as a Peace Corps volunteer. And now I'm going to introduce myself in Arabic. Salamu alaikum, smiti Shanay, u ana كنت ساكن في المغرب 2016 و 2018 وكنت متطوعة.
That was excellent. I'm glad you did the English translation first before you did the Arabic translation. But that is super exciting. I'm already excited about the conversation just by you introducing yourself in Arabic. So really quickly, how me and Shanay met, which is really funny because it ties into what we're talking about tonight. We met at a conference called Lipstick and Luggages. I was presenting and Shanay joined my class. And so what is hilarious about that is she was actually going off to Peace Corps. What was it? You went to Peace Corps, what, a month or two later?
Yes, that's exactly. September.
Right. So I met her a month or two later before she was actually going to Peace Corps. And we just kept in contact over the years. And then I was actually able to see her in Morocco, which was super, super cool. We got a chance to meet up and hang out. And so that was super fun. So tell me how you began to get into the Peace Corps. Like, what is the process? What made you choose Morocco of all places that you could go to?
Okay, with the Peace Corps, I did not learn about the Peace Corps until 2015. And as I mentioned, I moved to Morocco in 2016. I had what you would consider like a life-changing moment right before my 25th birthday. So I had this moment and I was in grad school at the same time. And I was constantly thinking about, okay, I'm ending grad school next year. I need to make a plan. What am I going to do? Am I going to go into the workforce? And in my mind, I'm like, that's what people expect me to do. That's the expectation, that I start working. I have this master's degree. I need to put it to use. And naturally, I had this feeling that I need to explore. There's more to life and there's more for me to see. And I started looking up different programs after this life-changing experience. I'm like, okay.
Wait, let me cut you off. And I think you made an important point, because the expectations that other people put on us will have us doing things that we really don't want to do. And yes, that's the next route, grad school, work. But honestly, we're going to be working the rest of our lives. If we live to 100, we're going to be working till we're 60 or 70. So I'm glad that you made the decision to explore. I also had the same thought as you after grad school. That was my next trajectory. I will not tell you on camera why I decided not to go. I'll tell you offline. It would be our little secret.
Okay. Yes, I definitely was in line with what I wanted. And that's what people shy away from, being in alignment with what they want, because you want to please other people sometimes. And as I mentioned, I had this life-changing experience where I'm like, you know what? I'm not going to hold myself back anymore. I just need to go. And as afraid as I was to make that decision, I knew that it was right for me, and that I felt that this was something that I needed in order for me to be a better person, in order for me to be a global citizen, in order for me to see the world in a different way. And I come from a background where I have a very comfortable life, and I wanted to shake it up. I'm like, I need a challenge. I went from undergrad, I worked a little bit, and then I went to grad school. And it's like, going into the workforce would have just drained me so much. And I was like, okay, I'm not doing it. So fast forward, I find out about the Peace Corps, I think in, what was it? It was 2015. It was early 2015 because I was searching, maybe I could do a study abroad program while I'm still in grad school. I was looking up different opportunities. And when I landed on the Peace Corps, I started doing a lot of research about what it is, what are some of the benefits of joining the Peace Corps, who has joined the Peace Corps that I can get in touch with and learn about their personal experiences. And I was also looking at length of time. I thought about the study abroad program, but then at the same time, I felt like 3 months, 4 months, 6 months wasn't long enough for me to really be immersed in a culture, to me really be immersed in a lifestyle, for me to really have a change of reality. I felt like the length of time was important to me. So that was something I considered. And with the Peace Corps is 27 months. And that was why I decided to do the Peace Corps, in addition to other reasons. But looking at the length of time was like, okay, this is 27 months. That means I'm there. Like, it's no, like when you do something for 3 to 6 months, it's almost like you get in as soon as you get comfortable, it's time to go. And so with the Peace Corps.
And it almost feels like a vacation. I think the longest I've been anywhere was Ghana, and that was 6 weeks. But after the 6 weeks, I return home. That's only a month and a half. But like you said, going for that amount of time is good. And it's funny because some people would look at 27 months and be like, oh, no, that's too long. So the fact that you've thought about that and decided that you wanted to make it a lifestyle, I think is super important, like you said, in your decision making.
Yes, because I knew that I wanted to learn a language. And I thought to myself, if I study Spanish from middle school to now and I still don't know it, I don't think 6 months is long enough for me to actually learn a language and put it to use. But in fact, I actually learned Moroccan Arabic within 3 months. And of course, with the Peace Corps, as I'm going to mention, and why I started with the introduction in Arabic, is when you start the Peace Corps, the first part of your training is language and culture training.
Okay.
So we had 3 months of language and culture training, and I lived with the Moroccan host family who didn't speak English. The daughter was in high school, so she knew some words. Hello, how are you? I love you. Most common phrases in English. She knew those, but most of the time I was speaking in Arabic with my Moroccan family. So that helped kind of speed up the rate of me learning the language. And I'm not perfect at the language. And I still, like to this day, I still talk to my Moroccan host families, but I definitely, that's something that I want to keep with me.
And was Google Translate around in 2016?
Google Translate, we didn't use Google Translate actually, because with the Peace Corps, they have the language training is done by Moroccans. So we had a workbook that we worked out of every single day. Our training was 6 days out of the week. And on Sunday, it was our break. So we spent time with our host family, or we spent time with each other within our community training group. There were 5 of us.
Shanay, that's exciting that you were able to live with the host family, because what better way to be immersed? Because I know not all Peace Corps volunteers live with families, but I think that was a great way for you to learn. And obviously, if nobody can communicate, somebody has to give, right?
Right.
You were the guest, you had to learn it very quickly. But that's amazing that you were able to learn the language in 3 months. I say the same thing. I would love to learn Spanish. I can hear and understand, but I cannot speak it at all, or phrases like your host. So I always said that I think in order for me to get better at it would definitely be to be immersed into it. So I think you were on the right path with that.
Yes, you definitely have to be immersed in the culture. And a lot of times you have to push yourself. I would sit because most of the time during the language training, I was in the classroom setting. So our teacher was Moroccan. He taught us in English, and then we did lessons in Moroccan Arabic. And when I would go home, I would speak with my family, and I would have this flip note card that I would just sit in front of me. So when we're eating dinner, when we're eating lunch, when we're just watching TV, I would have it there with me. So if I need to say anything, I'm pulling it out. And it would be so funny because my host family, we would be all at this dinner table eating together. And I would get ready to say like the food is good, or I'm full, or anything. And they will all just stop and stare and wait to see what I was gonna say. Like, what is this girl about to say? Because she knows she don't know Arabic. It was so funny. Most of how we communicated in the beginning was through body language. I smiled a lot. I laughed a lot. I shrugged my shoulders. Anything I could do to communicate. And actually what I learned was Moroccans actually use a lot of body language. So a lot of what you can communicate a whole phrase without saying anything. And
Right.
after being there and being immersed in the culture and picking up on these things, I started to do it too. And so it just became really funny when I would see people in the street and have a full conversation without saying a word, but all through body language.
Right. And then we often talk about that, how verbal communication is not the only communication that you have. So with your host family, like, did you cook with them? Did you have your own room? Like, how did that work with you being a guest in their house?
Yes, with my host family. So each of us, there were 100, I believe 110 of us that moved in country at the same time to Morocco. And I had my own host family, but there were 5 other volunteers in the community where I lived, and we each had our own host family. Within my host family, it was mom and dad, and it was a girl and boy. The son was about 21, and the daughter was actually, that's too old. No, he was maybe like 19, 18, 19. And the daughter was maybe 17, and she was just getting ready to go to university. So when I moved, it was in September, and she was moving to university that same September. So I ended up taking her room, and she moved to the bigger city near to go to university. And I mean, the family treated me like family. They were so kind and so loving. And it was really nice to just be around them because I felt like they treated me like family. And not every Peace Corps volunteer has the same dynamic when it comes to family setting. Not everybody has the same experience. And I felt very lucky because I had 2 host moms that took great care of me, and they made me feel like I was a part of their family. So that was important.
That's super important, because how many of us don't get along with our own families?
Right.
So the fact
Right.
that you were accepted and welcomed by somebody from a whole different culture and norms and different things like that was great. I had a stay-home mom when I was in Ghana during that 6 weeks, and I think we were only there like a couple days. But we still stay in contact. Well, I still stay in contact with my host mom when I go back to Ghana. I try to go see her. Last time I took my group with me to go see her. So I definitely think that aspect of living with somebody is super, super important. Okay, so let's move on to, but before we move on really quickly about the food, Moroccan food is delicious. I love the tangine. I had a lamb tangine, Shanay, and I'm telling you, that is the best lamb I've ever had. Somebody mom was in there.
It's fresh.
Falling off the bones, and it was actually sweet because the other dishes I had was more savory tangine, but this was delicious, and this was like my last night there, and so I definitely went out with a food bang. I'm so happy because they were like, are you gonna go out or are you gonna stay in and eat? And I'm like, I'm too tired, I don't feel like going anywhere, so I'm thankful that I didn't want to go anywhere and ate the food there. So it was absolutely delicious. So I'm pretty sure you had great food for 2 years. And do you know how to cook now? Do you cook it now that you're back at home?
That's what I was going to mention. So with my first host family, when the daughter would come home from her breaks and things like that, she would teach me how to cook. And actually before she left, she was still there. So there was a period of time when we were together. So she taught me how to wash my clothes by hand. She taught me how to cook. And it was so funny because anytime I would mess up, she would be like, no, Shay. Because I told them to call me Shay. And so she was so sweet, and she would teach me how to make the tagine. She would teach me how to make a lot of different dishes. Most of the time for lunch, we would have a variation of tagine with chicken and vegetables. And so I learned how to make tagine like as soon as I got there. I'll say living with the host family, the most challenging part about it was me trying to like be independent and wash my own clothes, because it's not like they had a washer, but the washer was a spin washer. So it only spin the water out of the clothes, but I had to wash the clothes by hand. So it was funny because my host sister showed me the process. She's like, okay, you do this, you put this bucket here, you put this bucket here, put the clothes here, you use the scrub, whatever you call the board that you scrub the clothes with. I mean, she is excellent at it. And I tried it and I'm like, this is back-breaking labor. So I do have, from that experience, like the cooking, the housework, all of that, I have so much respect for being a stay-at-home mom. Just period.
Right. This off right, exactly. No,
Mhm.
yeah, when you talked about the food, I forgot that I did a cooking class at a family's house. And so I was
Mhm.
like, dang it, I wish that I would have brought back home the, what is it called? The pot that you cook in, the clay
Oh, the
thing.
tajin. The
Yeah, I
tajin.
wish that I would have brought it back home so that I could replicate it here
Yeah.
while I'm here. But
Mhm.
that reminds me too. In Ghana, I remember. Well, I had somebody else to wash my clothes. Well, maybe I washed my underwear. But yes, I remember feeling like, "Where's the washer and dryer?" Because I'm not about this life. But yeah, so that's super super funny. So
Mhm.
that's super cool. I'm glad that you had a good experience at home. Now let's move a little bit to exactly what was your Peace Corps. What did you do? Like, what was your
Mhm.
goal while you were there for the 2 years?
With Peace Corps, a lot of people think that you go into Peace Corps to give and to serve and to help somebody else be better. And that's the case, but that's not 100% of your service. I would say that's not the full scope of service. Peace Corps for me was going in to better myself, to have a better understanding of the world, to have a better understanding of people, to learn more. And by me having that experience and being myself, I was able to share my own personal experiences about being an American, about American culture, about speaking English. I was able to share those things with the people that I came in contact with. And so for the first 6 months or so, I had my language training and then I moved with the host family. And from there, it was really all about me integrating into the culture. So I didn't actually start working or start doing any services or anything like that until I moved into my own apartment. I moved into my own apartment and I started working at a preschool teaching English. This was a private school, so I was teaching English, and the students were like 3, 4, 5, and 6, and they were also learning French and Arabic. So I did that for like the first spring that I lived out on my own. And I also was a part of the multimedia community, the multimedia committee within the Peace Corps volunteers. So I did a lot of the social media, video creation, and things like that for Peace Corps as a whole. And yeah, and then I started working with high school students. So I started teaching them English because I'm like, okay, the preschoolers, this is a privilege for them to get English. But after they finish my class, they're going to go on to their next grade level. They're not going to really, this is not going to retain with them. So it's not a benefit for them to learn it right now. Even though they were in private school, it was a benefit to sell English as a third language to parents that were paying tuition. But in general, the students who I preferred to work with was the high school students because they needed English to pass. So I worked with the 10th, 11th, 12th graders, 9th, 10th, 11th, 12th graders, and started teaching them English. But I only did it 3 days out of the week for 2 hours. So that's why I say Peace Corps is not all about what you can bring to the community. It's just you coming as yourself and having an experience.
Answer me this question. Are you allowed to kind of create your own environment? Are you allowed to be
Yes.
like, hey, I want to work with this person, I want to do this, I want to do that? So
Mhm.
I think that's super
Yes.
cool to be able to like go in and be creative as a Peace Corps member because you're going to be there
Mhm.
for 2 years. So I
Yes.
think that's super cool that you can kind of decide what you want to do and who you want to work with.
And it really depends on the need of your community. So within my community, a lot of people saw me as an English teacher, although I was so resistant in the beginning. In the beginning, I was very resistant because with Peace Corps in Morocco in particular, it's youth development, which would be similar to like doing Boys and Girls Club activities, would be doing activities that you would do at like a Salvation Army or YMCA. So, you do kind of programs to help people prepare and give them life skills. So I was excited to go in and do that type of work. But most of everybody in my community was like, oh, English teacher. And I'm like, no. And so I ended up going into teaching English because that was the need. And so as a volunteer, you do what is needed within the community and you try to implement other things to get people to learn something new and to be a part of like a new type of like the things we do here could be different than what they do there for youth development. So you try to implement those things. But for me, it was implementing those things around teaching English.
And answer me this about payment. How does
Mm,
payment work while you're there? Because I know most people are like, how am I going to survive in these facilities?
yes. That is such a great question. And I honestly will say that another reason why I chose Peace Corps is because I knew that it was going to give me the security that I personally needed and the security that my family could have as I'm living in this other country. They could know that I'm being taken care of. So with the Peace Corps, you get a monthly stipend, and that monthly stipend allowed me to buy my own food. It allowed me to pay my own rent and pay my utilities, which was only water and electricity. And it allowed me to travel too. So it wasn't a large stipend. My stipend was only about like 330 USD a month. And
Wow.
with that, I was able to do a lot. I had an apartment with a balcony, which I was set on that apartment when I met with my host family and they were helping me find a place. I'm like, it has to have a balcony. So I was able to get a balcony within my budget because I couldn't spend 3,000 dirhams on just an apartment. I wouldn't be able to live. But my apartment was in budget and we got paid every month. And then at the end of Peace Corps, you get a what did they call it?
I know.
Readjustment.
Okay. I'm like, I know it's some type of stipend. It's what about
Yeah.
$6,000? How much is it at the
It
end?
depends. It depends. So for me, it was more than 6,000. And it depends. I think every year it might go up slightly, of course, because inflation. But how it works is they don't just drop this money in your account. You get paid this $300 and then they set aside another like 300 or so dollars each time you get paid. And that equals up to the amount that you get at the end of your service.
Okay.
Yeah, so that's how I was able to be paid and have some security in terms of eating and housing after I lived outside of my host families. And then another thing that I thought was a good security feature for me was the fact that I would have health insurance and I would be able to go to doctors and have access to those things because obviously living outside of a different country, you don't have access to your doctor that you go to when you're at home. And with the Peace Corps, they give you a doctor, health insurance, all the things you need, the same things that I would need here, dentists, eye doctors, things like that.
They have a I have another question. So I've been to Morocco and I went to Morocco solo, right?
Mhm.
And I know a lot of women. I have heard women complain about like cat calling or different things like that. And so a lot of people say they feel unsafe. I felt safe, and I don't know if it's because I had tour guides with me the
Mhm.
entire time that I was there that I felt safe. But even when I first arrived, I'm not with somebody and I still felt okay. So tell them how you felt as a black woman walking around in Morocco. Did you experience those different things or no?
I would say I personally felt safe. But again, this is just me, Shanay, talking my experience. I know volunteers that did not have necessarily a safe experience. And that could have been one instance in particular, or that could have been the duration of their service, which resulted in them going home. But it really is dependent on the person and dependent on whatever the environment is. I personally felt safe living with my host families. I felt safe walking outside alone, walking outside at night. I felt safe living with both of my host families. And I would say the benefit of being a Peace Corps volunteer and being an American living in a small community, everybody knew me. So
Okay.
it's different than, for example, if I'm a tourist coming into the country and I go to Marrakesh. That's a different type of experience than me coming to a village where there's only about 10,000 people. And before I even go to my host family, the police already know I'm coming.
Okay.
Right.
So,
So it's a different type of experience for a Peace Corps volunteer than it is for someone just traveling in country. But that doesn't take away the fact that even as a Peace Corps volunteer, there were times when I didn't feel safe. There was a time when I was walking down our main road and this guy, he was drunk and he noticed me. I couldn't even recall what he was saying, but he noticed me and started, stopped and started saying stuff to me. There were still people out, like still stores that were open. I just went into the store, and the guy who owned it wasn't actually a store, it's like an outside stand with food. I just went right behind him, sat down on his little bench, and let the guy keep walking. And I called my gendarme, which is a police officer. I called him and let him know this guy is following me, and I didn't want to go home because I didn't want him to see where I live. And I called him, and he's like, okay, where are you? I'm coming. And he came, and this is a small community, so this is happening quick. So he came, and they took the guy. And so from that point, I was able to walk home. But I didn't have a lot of those experiences. Again, that was just my experience. But
just one type of, yeah. And I mean, I guess that's for what you said, that's true. I think we all have different experiences when we travel. We can literally go to the same place, same city, and experience two completely different, or we can even be together and still, have different experiences. I'm glad that you pointed that out and validating other people's experience, but letting us know that this is what our experience was.
I was nervous in the beginning. Like when I was assigned to live on my own, I was like, okay, I'm nervous. I'm a young Black woman here in this community by myself. That was also another reason why I stayed close with my host family and made sure I built a relationship with them, because they are literally the only people that I had there. Luckily, my landlord, he was a nice man. His son spoke English. There was a girl who was, she was a young Moroccan girl, same age as me. She lived right next door to me. So I put myself in situations where I knew it could work out, because I knew, like, if they're not bothering her, they're probably not going to bother me, because it's not common for Moroccan women to live alone anyway.
Okay, so that's something that you had to get used to, but you surrounded yourself with a safety plan, essentially. Like, hey, yes. I know this, I can go to this person. Let's talk about dating in Morocco. How was it dating in Morocco? Because when you think of moving to a place, you do think about dating if you're single. So how was like the dating experience? Do Moroccans only stick to Moroccans? Are they open to foreigners? Like, what was that like, and what was your experience with that?
I would say the dating experience, well, volunteers got with volunteers, because literally when we moved in country, our first point of contact were other Americans. And so right from the beginning, you saw volunteers that were connecting. To this day, I have volunteers that are about to get married. So that's really exciting to see how their relationship formed over that period of time. And then as we got into our communities, as we got into the things that we were doing just day to day, you meet people the same way you would meet people wherever you are. So I'm married to a Senegalese man, and I met him in Morocco. And I met him after my living with my host family. So I lived with my host families, like I said, for about 7 months. And at that time, we had freedom to explore, because with Peace Corps, when you first move to country, it's very regimented. You live with your host families, you do language training. In between language training, you will go to the bigger city like Meknes or Rabat, and you will get further training, but as a group, a larger group versus the smaller groups. So it was very regimented for like the first 7 months. And then finally, I got the opportunity to travel to Spain. I told you before, I'm a salsa dancer. So the first thing I did when we were allowed to actually leave the country and travel outside of Morocco, I'm like, oh, I should look up salsa dancing festivals. And I found one in Spain.
Spain is really close to Morocco. So when I went there and saw Shanay, I went to Spain as well. So that's just to let you know how
it's a 2-for-1. Yeah. Spain and Morocco are definitely a 2-for-1. I highly recommend it because it's super cheap. And that trip was $25. I flew Ryanair, and I flew from Rabat straight to Spain. And a lot happened in Spain. I ended up getting my wallet was stolen. So my trip got cut short. I went back to Rabat, the capital of Morocco, because I had to go to Peace Corps headquarters and talk to them about my experience and make sure I was safe, all those things. And so at that time is when I met my husband. I was literally getting ready to go to Peace Corps headquarters. And I'm like, okay, let me get up. I think it was like 7 o'clock in the morning. And I'm like, I'm going to go and get milwi, which is a typical Moroccan breakfast. So delicious. But I was like, I'm going to go get milwi, and I'm going to go to headquarters. And I was walking, I'm eating my milwi, minding my own business. Like, oh, okay, whatever. And he was there. He sells electronics. He sells phones. So he had everything. He was there working. And he was like, hello. And I'm like, why are you talking to me? Because I had been, prior to moving to Morocco, I was single for like 2 years. So before I turned 25, my big life-changing experience was a breakup.
Okay.
So I had broken up with the guy that I was dating in college. And then I'm like, you know what? I'm out of here. I can leave now. It was perfect. And so I ended up meeting Musa coming back from Spain. And I'm like, okay, it would be nice to talk to him, you know, somebody to talk to for the summer, because it was May. So I'm like, it would be nice to talk to somebody for the summer. So that's how we ended up meeting. It was literally just like that. And then that same day he invited me. We went to the garden. We sat in the garden and we talked, and we literally connected and clicked then and there. So it was really nice to connect with him and meet him, because prior to that, I didn't have a lot of external communications with people outside of the Peace Corps world, because it was so regimented.
Okay. So that was definitely perfect timing. So hey, you never know, you may get your Peace Corps on, do your volunteer, give back, and you may meet your husband in the process. You just never ever know.
Yeah. And there's actually a volunteer who is married to someone from her community. So where she was assigned, she got married to someone there. There are so many of us that have gotten into relationships, that are married, both men and women. And so it's really nice to hear people's story, because going into Morocco is not something you hear. I mean, even for you, when you studied abroad, I'm sure you didn't hear about stories of people getting married or even thinking about relationships. But all of us went in just, you know, excited for the experience. Exactly. And then we meet somebody.
Right, you get some out of process. And dating abroad is actually very fun. It's a lot. Mm-hmm. I feel like sometimes it's a lot different from the U.S. because I feel like men in the U.S. are different from those are abroad. And we can have, we'll have to do a second video just on dating relationships abroad.
Yes.
You know, all that kind of stuff. So we'll kind of keep on track of what we're talking about. So our last discussion topic is, tell us what is the process of applying for Peace Corps? What do you have to do? Give us some last minute type of what do people need to do if they want to apply? And also, can you talk about, we mentioned earlier about the 2 years, but also there are shorter programs as well in the Peace Corps as well. So Shanay, go ahead and give us some last minute tips on what people should do to apply to go to the Peace Corps.
Yes. The first thing you want to do is go to peacecorps.gov. This is where you start. Go to peacecorps.gov. There are over 50 countries that you can go to, and you decide. The first thing I had to do was decide first, what do I want to do within my service? What do I want to take away from my service? And then I had to decide what country I wanted to go to. So my options were Spanish-speaking countries and Arabic-speaking countries. Morocco was the only country of all of the countries that were Arabic-speaking. They had just ended a Jordan service, I think that year before. So Jordan wasn't available. So Morocco was the only Arabic-speaking country, and I thought that it would be a great way for me to market a different type of skill, because Spanish is so common in the U.S., Arabic is not, and I figured it would be more marketable for me to learn Arabic. And then also, because I'm in the tourism industry, Morocco is a very popular and well-known tourist destination. So I figured those are two aspects of my life personally that I think that I can gain benefit from by going to Morocco. So that's how I ended up deciding on Morocco. Once you decide, you just click on that service within peacecorps.gov, you click on it, and you start the application process. The application process is long. I'm not going to deny that. I filled out the application. Then I had a video interview. After the video interview, they'll let you know if you're selected. But then you also have to go through this medical review as well. So I had to do all of my doctor's appointments. I had to get everything turned in within this certain period of time. At that time, I think it was March 2016 that I had to turn in all of like my medical records and everything. And then you go into this portal and you check off everything that you're supposed to submit to the Peace Corps. And then once you submit that information, then they'll come back and say, congratulations, you've been accepted into the Peace Corps. And then they give you the date in which you're going to, I guess, leave. I want to see the part. Yeah, I'm like, what word do I want to confused. So you get that date, and then you're off. You have like a couple things in between, but most of everything is like from that start of the application up until that medical exam that you have to submit all of your medical papers. Once you get there,
How long
then
was that process from
it was
beginning to
months. Yeah,
it
I
was
would say I
4 or
submitted.
5?
It was more than 4 or 5 because I got serious about applying for the Peace Corps my last semester, my last year of grad school. So that would have been 2015, like the right before it was August, September time. And so what I actually started doing was I met with the Peace Corps recruiter. And after meeting with her, I said, hey, can you connect me with people in Cleveland, maybe possibly Black people in Cleveland that have done the Peace Corps, because I want to talk to them and hear about their experience. This is my first time moving abroad, my first time leaving the country. So I wanted to touch base with as many people as I can to learn about their experiences. So I did that. And then once I finally decided, okay, I'm going to go for it, I submitted my application in October. From there, I think my interview may have been between that time, and then I had to submit my medical stuff in March. So between October and March is when I had to submit all of these documents, and the application process has started.
Yeah, so I feel like just be prepared for that process for anybody that wants to go. But I mean, think about it. You're preparing to pick up and move your life for the next 2 years or so. So I appreciate that they do a lengthy process to make sure that everything's okay. And then that other, I think they have assignments like 6 months or something like that.
Yes.
And a
Those
lot
are
of
Peace
people,
Corps response. And and I had looked at Peace Corps response, but the requirement is that you actually have to do a service first. So in order to do Peace Corps response, you have to do Peace Corps. And so there were some people that did the Peace Corps, and then afterwards they went on to a different country and did the response.
Okay, so that's good to know because I was usually on their website and I didn't see that piece about it.
Mhm.
But this has been a wonderful interview. I hope it is helpful to anybody that is looking to go into the Peace Corps. And remember, Peace Corps has no age, no anything on there.
No.
Anybody can go at any particular
Yeah.
time. So again, it's you talking about it, Shanay, made me like, I wish I would have went and gone. I definitely regret not doing that. But that doesn't mean that I still can't go, right? So Shanay,
Exactly. You can still go.
right. Shanay, give us some last minute of where can people find you with your Instagram, your Facebook, and a little bit about what you do, and that'll wrap us up.
Okay, thank you so much. So everybody can find me as Shanay Braxton on all platforms. I'm on YouTube, I'm on Instagram, I'm on Facebook and Twitter as Shanay Braxton, and I'm a travel and lifestyle content creator. I also work with businesses that are content creators as well in the travel industry. And a lot of my focus is helping travel content creators grow their business and grow their brand. And so if you're interested in that, then you can join me over on YouTube, where you can watch my travel vlogs and also learn information about how to grow your business.
All right, thank you, Shanay. That wraps up this video, and so peace out.
Bye.